Located in the southeastern part of Turkey is Göbekli Tepe, a 12,000-year-old monument that is older than Stonehenge and the pyramids. From afar, it does not look any different from any other archaeological site, but get closer, and its imposing stone pillars hold a secret, wondrous carvings of animals, celestial symbols, and humans that have puzzled archaeologists for decades. Why is this so special? Because these buildings are not merely awe-inspiring architecture, perhaps they contain a hidden message, one that has defied deciphering until today. With quantum AI, technology that can break symbolic codes spanning cultures and centuries, we might be closer than ever before to finding the life-altering significance encoded in these carvings. What do they represent? Who created them? Why were they constructed? And what can they warn us of today? Let's find out. Prior to examining what AI tells us about Göbekli Tepe, we need to know its enigma. Situated atop a hill in Turkey's southeast, Göbekli Tepe is one of the world's greatest archaeological finds of the contemporary age, an announcement that entirely transformed our vision of early human cultures. Its construction dates between 9,600 and 8,200 BCE, according to radiocarbon tests, which renders it thousands of years older than Stonehenge and the Great Pyramid of Giza. If this kind of story touches your heart, if you're someone who cares about truth, responsibility, and speaking up for the voiceless, please like this video, subscribe to our channel Spark Science, and share it with someone who should hear it. Let's get started. The site was originally discovered in the 1990s when German archaeologist Klaus Schmidt and his team started conducting excavations. What they found amazed the world: gigantic circular enclosures demarcated by tall T-shaped limestone pillars, weighing up to 20 tons in some cases. Even more remarkable was the fact that these megaliths had been constructed not by farmers or settled villagers but by hunter-gatherers, individuals in a pre-agriculture, pre-pottery, pre-writing era. It defied belief. How could such a society have had the organization, expertise, and knowledge to construct such a sophisticated thing? There was no sign of domestic life in the excavations, no hearths, dwellings, tools, or remains of cultivation. There were only open-air enclosures, animal carvings, and ritual artifacts at Göbekli Tepe, implying that it was a ceremonial or religious site and not a settlement. The size and sophistication suggested that there must have been an unprecedented extent of social coordination far beyond anything that had previously been thought possible for early humans. But the pillars themselves hold the key. Decorated lavishly with deeply carved motifs, scorpions, foxes, vultures, snakes, wild boars, and abstract designs, they stood for decades as a puzzle that baffled archaeologists. Were they calendars of the changing seasons, mythological accounts, or purely decorative? With no written script to guide us, their meaning became even more elusive. One of the most mysterious examples, the renowned vulture stone, shows a vulture towering over the headless body of a man. Most researchers think this was not only symbolic art, but meaningful beyond words. But contextless, the carvings were still undecipherable, until today. Today, armed with superior AI and the groundbreaking processing capacity of quantum computing, we now have the capability to revisit this riddle. Whereas classical AI scans one step at a time, quantum AI simultaneously searches through huge amounts of data, recognizing patterns that seem to elude the human eye. Brought to Göbekli Tepe, it digitized each of the carvings in microscopic resolution, charted the interconnections between symbols, and cross-checked them with astronomical and cultural databases. The findings were stunning. The carvings exist in a deliberate order, proposing that perhaps these are the earliest instances of symbolic writing the world has ever seen. The AI interpreted the symbols: death was the scorpion, celestial rise was represented by the vulture, divine power or illumination was the sun disk, and transformation, perhaps journey to another world, was the headless man. Together, the images narrate a cycle of death, rebirth, and cosmic transcendence. Even more astonishingly, the AI detected correlations between certain pillars and old constellations, demonstrating that Göbekli Tepe's engineers were not just master craftspeople but also astronomers. They followed the precession of the equinoxes, the Earth's gradual axial wobble over a 25,920-year cycle, with breathtaking accuracy. This is where it becomes creepy. The AI reasoned that the carvings could be encoding warnings linked with this cosmic cycle, perhaps alluding to catastrophic events in Earth's ancient past. If hunter-gatherers were aware of such phenomena, a dominant theory of science and astronomy developing only after agriculture and urban civilization falls apart. Rather, Göbekli Tepe could be an anthology of knowledge from an even more ancient, lost culture. Curiously, the deeper the archaeologists dig, the older and more sophisticated the carvings. The earliest levels show finer detail, symmetrical proportions, and lifelike modeling, while the later ones are rougher, as if the builders inherited the designs but not the initial mastery. This inversion of progress indicates that Göbekli Tepe is not documenting the emergence of a new civilization, but the declining legacy of an older one. Adding to the intrigue is the purposeful burial of the site circa 8000 BCE, when it was buried under tons of dirt and rubbish. Classic views explain this as ritual closure, but AI has an alternative explanation. It's possible that the site was deliberately buried to conceal its encoded information for a remote future, perhaps even for us. Quantum AI's analysis confirms that the carvings are not random decorations but part of a structured symbolic system. The recurring sequence of scorpion, vulture, sun disk, and headless man narrates themes of death, transcendence, and rebirth. Comparing these with later iconographic systems, Sumerian cylinder seals, Egyptian tomb art, and Neolithic Chinese jade engravings, revealed striking similarities, suggesting Göbekli Tepe preserved an ancient symbolic code that survived a cataclysm. That interpretation is contentious. Mainstream archaeology attributes the invention of writing to the Sumerians circa 3200 BCE. However, if Göbekli Tepe's carvings constitute a protoscript from 10,000 BCE, that brings the beginning of written communication nearly 7,000 years before it was thought to have commenced. Its astronomical significance is also remarkable. Signs such as the vulture and scorpion seem to find their counterparts in constellations Sagittarius and Scorpius, precisely matching the night sky of that prehistoric time. This suggests Göbekli Tepe served not just as a ritual center but as a celestial observatory. Even more enigmatic, the spatial configuration of the pillars themselves potentially encodes measurements associated with quantum oscillation patterns, knowledge well beyond what hunter-gatherers would have had. If so, this suggests the preservation of advanced knowledge from a civilization predating recorded history. Among the most debated carvings is the so-called handbag motif on Pillar 43. Depicted as three small rectangular shapes with curved handles, they look almost like modern purses. Archaeologists suggest they could be baskets or containers, but their uncanny similarity to symbols found across ancient Mesopotamia, Mesoamerica, and beyond raises questions. How is it that almost identical patterns are found in cultures oceans apart and millennia ago? Mainstream thinking labels it coincidence, but the accuracy of the pattern implies common origin. Other historians, such as Graham Hancock, theorize these handbags represent the vessel of knowledge, portable wisdom carried by enigmatic culture carriers who reconstituted civilization following a world deluge. 3 may also carry symbolic significance, standing for heaven, earth, and underworld, or for celestial cycles, like Orion's belt. If Göbekli Tepe contains a warning, then these handbags can be seen to indicate that knowledge itself was to be kept, portable, and taken into the future. The intentional burial of Göbekli Tepe corroborates this notion as well. Sealing the site preserved it for thousands of years, hiding its coded messages away until mankind was prepared, or sophisticated enough, to rediscover them. And now that we have quantum AI, perhaps we're only just starting to get it. Göbekli Tepe, then, may not just be an ancient sanctuary but a message from a forgotten chapter of human history. Its carvings speak of death, rebirth, astronomy, cycles of catastrophe, and the preservation of vital knowledge. Whether warnings or wisdom, the pillars remind us that our past may be far older, far stranger, and far more connected than we've ever imagined. Arguably the most brain-bending revelation of the AI research is the potential that Göbekli Tepe is inscribing not just myths and star charts, but time itself on a scale so gigantic as to defy imagination. The alignment of the pillars, the order of the animal symbols, and the direction of the enclosures all appear to conform to the gradual wobble of the Earth's axis, the precession of the equinoxes, as astronomers term it. This is a cycle of some 26,000 years, long beyond the observation span of one lifetime, or even one culture. The AI discovered that some animal motifs are not aligned to constellations in a stationary sky, but rather to constellations as they appeared in particular epochs of precessional time. The scorpion, for instance, corresponds to Scorpius as viewed around 10,000 BCE, while the vulture is aligned to the Sagittarius stars in the same time period. As a whole, the carvings could serve as a sort of precessional clock, charting the changing ages of the universe. If this is true, then the constructors of Göbekli Tepe were not so much mapping the stars they could see overhead, but inscribing a wisdom of deep time, the great cycles Earth goes through. And here's the twist, that wisdom is reflected in myths from across the globe. The ancient Greeks wrote about the great year, a great cycle of ages. Hindu cosmology teaches of the yugas, giant epochs during which humanity ascends and declines. The Maya reckoned long cycles of time that had an astronomical basis. Might all these cultures represent broken recollections from an lost, integrated knowledge, one inscribed first on stone at Göbekli Tepe? If that is the case, then the site is not only the world's first temple, it is the world's first observatory, the world's first calendar, and even perhaps the world's first message to the future. And in that message, inscribed in stone, may be a warning, that civilizations wax and wane not only with the rhythms of history, but with the periods of the heavens themselves.